There's ever been a more charismatic boxer than Chris Eubank.
I'm the Lord of the Manor.
Or, frankly, a more courageous boxer than Chris Eubank.
And now I'm in the ring with Piers, the greatest of journalists, and it's going to be carnage.
He's been through everything. You know, as a kid, he was a juvenile delinquent. He then became this boxing champion, but all that led to was divorce and scandal and bankruptcy.
What happened to Chris Eubank?
He was also the boxer who left Michael Watson in a wheelchair. And I think the challenge tonight is to really work out who's the real Chris Eubank.
Piers suffers no fools. If you're not real, he will crush you.
Ding, ding. Off we go. Put your guard up, champ.
Bring it. Bring it.
I don't think I've ever had a start to a life stories where the audience have been chanting my opponent's name.
Well, I am a worthy opponent.
Well, you were one of the most successful British boxers of all time. You reigned as world champion for 5 years. You held the WBO middleweight and super middleweight titles between 1990 and 1995. You set a British record of 18 world title defences. But now... Yeah. But now, Chris Eubank, you're up against your toughest opponent.
Well, I believe that to be true in terms of journalists. There is no one like you. If a man isn't true, then you have the ability to crush them.
And how do you feel about that?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the challenge.
If I ask the wrong question, am I liable to get a right hook?
Well, that would only disrespect everything that I've actually been able to achieve. I mean...
So I'm safe?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, this is purely intellectual.
Because I've known you a long time, and in that time, you've always been, whenever I've met you, unfailingly courteous, polite, respectful, and yet when I've seen you in a ring, very different character. What's the biggest misunderstanding about you, do you think?
That I'm arrogant. I'm not arrogant. In the ring, I am, but not outside the ring. Outside the ring, I'm gentle.
It's a fine line between being a showman and being arrogant, isn't it? Either in the ring or out of the ring.
Inwardly, there is a huge, a vast difference between a show-off and a showman. Mm. And I'm a showman, so I'm doing it to entertain. I'm doing it to say to people, look, if I can do this, then so can you.
I mean, you're very flamboyant, always have been. You're very eloquent, obviously. Your voice is very distinctive. Where did that come from? Because I was told you listened to BBC One, the World Service in America, you would listen to.
Upstairs, downstairs, do you remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
You listened to that? You watched that?
Yeah, yeah.
And you would listen to the way they spoke?
Yes.
And would you be focusing on the accents above or below stairs? Up, presumably.
I lived with what was downstairs, yeah.
This was up?
I was heading upstairs, yeah. So the dress sense, you know,
yeah.
Mannerisms,
everything. Manners. Your fashion style is unique. We've got a picture of you in the whole shebang. There you are. It was a great look.
Well,
what were you going for here? What was the ambition?
The ambition was to be me. That's all.
Are you back in upstairs, downstairs there? Is that the posh guy in the corner of the library with the monocle and the jompers? I mean, that's the kind of attire you would see on upstairs, downstairs.
What you see is what you want to do.
But am I right in thinking that's where the inspiration came from?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
You used to change outfit 3 or 4 times a day.
I had a responsibility to always look
sharp,
pristine.
Really? You've also spent a lot of money on your hair.
That I did.
Seems a perverse question tonight, but
yes.
There's not much left. But when you had more hair, you would fly your hairdresser from Manchester every week for 10 years at a cost of £250 a haircut. True?
No, not quite.
What's the truth?
3 times a week when I had hair.
3 times a week?
3 times, because I was on TV that much.
You'd fly him down from Manchester
Absolutely.
3 times a week?
Yes.
So, I mean, the word was you spent about £100,000 on him and hair.
It wasn't excess to me. It was dutiful in that I had a duty to actually appear a particular way to the public.
Well, we haven't got to the cars yet.
But again...
The cars are motorbike. You had a Harley-Davidson bike, you had a Range Rover, Aston Martin, Peterbilt truck. Do you still have the truck or not?
No, I've had to calm down now.
What do you drive now?
Just a car.
What kind of car?
It's just a car.
Well, of course it's a car, but I mean, what kind of car?
It gets me from A to B. That's what. So, you know.
I'm not trying to be a tabloid. You are now reverting to your early days in journalism. No, I'm asking you for factual information, and it seems to me what you're doing is, for some reason, you're slightly embarrassed about.
I am not embarrassed.
Showing or talking about the excess that was going on.
I am not embarrassed. I am a gentleman. I never want to entertain. In such a way where I'm paying a price for it, where people are saying, well, I don't like him. No, sorry, let me finish this point.
I've got to do a hang on here. You were the biggest showman in British sport. Of course you wanted people to say, look at me. That was part of your shtick.
The way in which you're putting it across, I understand.
If we were boxing now, the jab's going strong. You've tried to come in with the big haymaker, and I'm like, wait a second. Okay. Boom, boom, boom.
Okay. All right.
Let's just take a look back at some of the extraordinary highs and lows in your career.
Do you think it's easy looking this good?
Chris Eubank, the English eccentric who brought artistry and elegance into boxing.
He walked into a room and it was someone had turned the light on.
The jodhpurs, the cane, the monocle.
I'm the Lord of the Manor.
His unique dress sense and his penchant for flash vehicles.
The most famous would have to be the truck.
Saw him punching far above his middleweight division in the world of celebrity.
The pugilist must endeavour to find peace with the Almighty. Gibberish, gibberish.
You don't take flight when there's a fight.
After a wild childhood in London, Chris took up boxing and quickly made a big impression.
I thought myself, this kid's definitely going to be a world champion.
He strutted about the place and posed.
He could talk the talk.
Watch the true warrior reveal himself.
I was hooked on day one.
In the early 90s, Chris was the hardest thing on 2 legs.
He was a real tough guy.
He had a chin like granite.
Eubank is taking these punches well, Reg.
Eubank! As world champion, Chris Eubank was both warrior and showman. But outside the ring, he was a far cry from your typical boxer.
People, they think he's very hard, but he's not. Inside him, he's a very gentle man.
Most people look at boxers and just see meatheads. That's not what my father was. He wanted to be the complete opposite of that.
He was much more of a thinker.
Chris expressed his thoughts when he controversially referred to the sport as dangerous and a mug's game.
Knocking people out it's not a good thing. It's not a certainty that they're going to get up and walk away.
In 1991, Chris took part in one of the most notorious fights in British boxing history against his fierce rival Michael Watson. It would prove him right.
I don't think he realises what he's up against.
Watson was a very, very good boxer.
Michael came from a similar background to Chris on the council estates of East London. A shy boy, he took up boxing to defend himself and quickly became a big name. In their first fight, Chris won on a disputed points decision, so 3 months later, the pair squared up for a rematch.
Michael, what do you make of this guy?
He's dug his grave and he's digging it deep.
The fight took place on the 21st of September 1991 at White Hart Lane. Michael Watson dominated from the start, and in the 11th round, Chris was on the brink of defeat.
I can remember putting Chris Eubank down. Complete control.
It's only Eubank's fighting spirit, his warrior instinct, that got him up.
And out of sheer desperation, he produced this incredible uppercut.
He's walked in and he's now Watson.
Chris Eubank got up, he came over, and then next minute I can remember blank until darkness. Fight for survival.
The referee had stopped the fight and Chris had won. But triumph turned to tragedy as Michael was rushed to hospital for emergency brain surgery.
We didn't realise the damage at the time.
He is at present undergoing further surgery to his injured brain.
Michael, who had 2 young children, had suffered not only career-ending, but life-changing brain injuries.
He remains on life support in intensive care.
Chris, he was devastated, and he went straight on the phone to his mother, and he said, "Mum, start playing for him, start playing for him."
I should be dead. I shouldn't be walking on, I shouldn't be talking.
The boxer Michael Watson is having a further operation after his condition deteriorated this afternoon.
To be one of the fittest fighters in the world, and to end up in a wheelchair, people pushing him around in a wheelchair. I feel so emotional now, but it's a nightmare.
Slowly but surely, Michael started to recover, and by 2003, he was walking the London Marathon with his old foe Chris by his side.
I had to keep my faith and be strong.
Thank you, bro.
I'm good, man. You right?
Praise the Lord.
Knowing the modesty, my heart forgave him, and that's sincere. Chris has been forgiven.
An incredibly difficult moment for you, for Michael, for the sport, for everyone involved. What are your memories of that night?
You know, I don't really know whether I can even still make sense of what happened. You know, him having to go through what he's gone through and to still be here and it's, you know, I can't tell you how sorry. I can't tell you how sorry. That's the only thing I regret in my career, and really, yeah, it's.
Let's move on, Chris. It's all right. It's okay, bro. Let's move on in life. Peace and love. I love you, Chris. That's all in the past. Let's move on in life, Chris. We're here together. Let's live in love. I love you, Chris. Let's move on. We are born warriors. We are real. God bless you, Chris. One love. God bless.
How much does it mean to you to have Michael here? And thank you so much for coming. I greatly appreciate it.
Absolute pleasure.
But for you, Chris, I mean, to have the man come to your Life Story show as a mark of respect for you, that's an extraordinary thing.
Yeah, it's been an extraordinary, extraordinary events over the years.
I've not seen this side of you, and it's very powerful, and it's very real. And it shows just how much it affected you and how much you still care about what happened. Michael, there'll be people watching this who will be amazed that you're here. What do you feel about Chris, now that we are where we are so much further down the line?
This is going to happen to anyone. It was a sheer accident.
Did you always feel as forgiving towards him?
Yeah. The way I've been brought up, I'm not a hater, I'm a lover. I'm a loving soul. I love others in general. Simple as it is.
And why was it important for you to be here today?
Because I want to be a part of the story. Simple as.
Well, Michael, you are the story. You are the story.
Thank you very much.
It did change boxing. There was a huge debate into safety. New regulations were brought in. Neurological hospital had to be within 10 minutes of the arena. Ambulance and paramedics on site, increased stewarding.
Yeah, many fighters have survived and are able-bodied because of what happened that night to Michael.
Because I actually think that even seeing Michael here and hearing him, and hearing you talk, that it's not a mug's game. It's a pursuit of extraordinary people who do extraordinary things. And yes, it's a battle, and yes, it's very hard, and it can end in a serious way. But it is something that is worthy of pride as well. I mean,
you are a standard bearer. As soon as you start fighting in that ring or on that mat, you know, you've got the world looking at you, because the first instinct of a man is to protect, that is to fight. Now, can you be a gentleman while you're doing it? Can you do it truly? Can you go beyond the, you know, you can't win a fight. So do you quit because you can't win? Or do you go on taking that beating? And if you can go on taking that beating, what you're doing for the public, you are lifting their spirits. And there's no better vocation, lifting the spirits of others. You know, whatever your predicament, whatever situation you're in, you can rise. And that's what we do.
You went through a rough time at school. You were expelled multiple times.
Can I ask you, did you just purposely cut me off?
Well, we've got the double bubble bonus bundle and the great big gigabyte bundle.
I'm just looking for a simple SIM plan.
Well, in that case, there's the Super Scroller Data Deal, the Go Getter Data Pro, the Infinite Plan, and the Infinite Plan Plus.
Do you have a plan I can understand?
Not really, no.
Simple plans, no nonsense, smarty.
Is it tax calculations?
A nightmare, obviously.
Obviously. In what world would she ever have to worry about her taxes?
I know, right?
Numbers.
It's all good. It's been taken care of.
Thanks, adorable, teeny tiny, hard-nosed QuickBooks people.
Sweet dreams.
Taking care of business, so you can sleep at night. Taking care of taxes, into it QuickBooks.
You ping pong. You switch. U-Switch customers have their energy usage saved, so you can switch in as little as one click. What you do while you switch, well, it's up to you.
Visit uswitch.com now to switch energy in as little as one click.
This is how we do it.
We all want to look after the pennies right now. It's easier when you can track what you spend with the NatWest app.
Scott, it's not what it looks like.
You were gonna eat him without me, weren't you?
Now the biting makes sense.
Psst, Scott's home early.
Wicked. Congrats, hon. Wicked.
Summer's come early. Every episode of Love Island available now on ITV Hub.
Wicked.
Let's go back to the start of your life. You were born Christopher Livingston Eubank in London in 1966. Your father was Irvin, your mother was Ina. They come over to the UK from Jamaica in the early 60s, and you have 3 older brothers and a sister. What was it like for your parents as newly arrived immigrants to the UK in that era, do you think?
So, you know, the Windrush period. So, you know, our mothers comforted this country. And our fathers helped rebuild the country from the Second World War. They came here and they worked. And my father, it seemed to me, loved this country so much that somehow I feel I'm carrying it on. I'm carrying on that love of this country. So, you know, Piers, integration is who I am.
We have a picture of your mother. There. She left the family home when you were 8 years old, and she left to go and live in New York, and you stayed in London with your father and your siblings. Did your father give any explanation at the time?
No.
So you just weren't told?
No, I wasn't told.
Your father was a gambler, he was a womanizer, he was quite violent with you guys if you misbehaved. Is that fair?
No, that's not violence, no. No. You know, my father taking his belt off that's not violence, that's steering.
It's still violence.
That's what it's called today. Okay, and I can't talk of what they speak of today. I know that you can't talk today about, discipline, but without it, these youngsters are going to become menaces to themselves. Never mind.
Well, you went through a rough time at school. You were expelled multiple times.
Can I ask you, did you just purposely cut me off?
No, I understand exactly what you're saying.
Children become menaces to themselves and to society if they are not given instruction.
But I would throw it back to you. I would throw it back to you. What I would say back to you is that you believe your father giving you the belt was a discipline that kept you on the straight and narrow. I could argue the complete opposite happened, that despite using the belt on you, you were very unruly at school.
I wouldn't say I was unruly.
I mean, you were expelled multiple times.
I was expelled multiple times.
Suspended from one school 18 times?
Yeah, in 1 year, that's right.
For fighting?
For protecting kids who were being bullied. I was doing the right thing.
Right.
It's called chivalry. And once it's in you, now, as I say, is it conditioning or was I born that way? But it's good. I was protecting those who were being taken advantage of. I wasn't doing anything wrong. I was doing everything right. That's right.
You were living with your father and your brothers.
Those three brothers of mine, whatever has been done to me throughout my life, nothing was harder than actually what those three did to me. My brother Peter, he's never hit me once in his life. But he didn't talk to me.
For how long?
He was always like this as a child with me. So it was him ignoring me and me wanting, when someone ignores you, you want to get their attention.
Yeah.
So that was probably the most powerful. More so than my brother David, who, I was always fighting with. So more so than the pain of those fights, him not talking to me. But that was good. It was great for me.
Do you talk to him now?
Oh, yeah.
Your friends?
Friends, he's my brother. You see, there's a distinction.
When you were 13, you were taken into care. Eventually, you left, the last care home was in Peckham, I think. You were homeless for a while. Where were you sleeping when you were homeless?
Sometimes the back of a car, a mate's house there, a girlfriend's house there.
How long was that period of your life?
A year.
A year?
Mm-hmm. But it was good. And so when I look at my past and all of these things that happened, these were blessings in disguise.
And in the end, actions do speak louder than words. You became the champion of the world. Chris was born in London in 1966 and was quickly sent to Jamaica with his 4 older siblings to live with his grandmother.
She was very spiritual. She was all about school, all about church. She was very strict but fair.
The children returned to London in the early 70s, but their parents' marriage didn't last, and Chris's mother moved with her daughter to New York in 1974, leaving Chris's father to bring up the 4 boys.
They grew up tough. They grew up on the streets. I remember Christopher saying we had a rat to play with.
As the youngest, Chris was often bullied by his brothers.
They teased him a lot about his big nose and other aspects of himself, the lisp, etc.
Chris went to the Thomas Carlton School in Peckham.
You'd hear, there's going to be a fight after school, there's going to be a fight after school. Chris is going to fight somebody. 9 out of 10 times he won.
Having been on the wrong end of bullying at home, Chris didn't like seeing it in school.
He didn't like bullies, so he knew he was strong enough to actually help people. This person has bullied another person and then had to contend with Chris. But it would always end up looking like Chris was the instigator. So obviously that gave him a reputation. That's also probably why he's been expelled, suspended and so on and so forth from so many schools.
Amid increasing concerns about their behaviour, Chris and 2 of his brothers were moved into foster care.
He went from care home to care home and then eventually fell into petty theft.
I was a real tea leaf thief.
Chris liked the finer things in life, even when he couldn't pay for them.
Boxing is full of stories of young men who were maybe on the wrong path.
He would shoplift professionally, dressing smartly and hiring a taxi for the day to work the West End stalls.
Chris Eubank, as he did in the ring, had the style about his criminality even.
In 1982, he was caught and charged with shoplifting. While he was on bail, his parents decided enough was enough. His father sent him to his mother in New York.
Chris Eubank was definitely on the road to prison. And once he got to America, he realised he had to straighten himself out. And it was there he discovered boxing.
Chris soon found a gym in the Bronx. He couldn't afford the fees, and he became the janitor so he could use their facilities.
He just joined a boxing club, I suppose, to keep himself out of trouble.
He was given a new start. He didn't want to disappoint himself after what had happened previously.
And he trained, and he trained, and he trained, and fell in love with the sport. Boxing probably saved him from prison.
Do you agree? Do you think boxing saved you from prison?
I don't know about that. I don't know how to answer that. I was always smart. I wasn't a blockhead.
When you went to New York to be reunited with your mother, you actually jumped bail to do that, right?
Yeah.
So you could have gone to prison.
Do you know that judge in Hove Court? And I remember this judge saying to me, there's a fellow called Keith Miles, who I know, who says you are a very promising young boxer and that you have a great future in front of you if you can keep on the straight and narrow. He said, I'm not going to penalize you, or whatever he said. He wasn't going to give me any sentence. He said, I'm going to give you a chance to go and actually realize your dream. And I never broke the law again.
Before that, let's just talk briefly about the sort of criminal bit of your life. You began shoplifting. It was in your teenage years in London. It was quite sophisticated. You were in this gang. You would dress immaculately, have a taxi on standby as you shot through the shops and things. What was in your head at that time? What were you thinking about this lifestyle you were leading?
You know, my reasoning at the time was, you know, these shops are charging 400% markup, so they're kind of cheating themselves.
That was how you justified it?
Yeah.
Did you ever hurt people?
No.
Did any of the gang?
No. Definitely not.
What would you steal? What was the kind of...
Clothes. Sunglasses and clothes.
That was it?
Yeah.
What would you do with them?
Sell them and keep the ones which were good.
Are you ashamed of your criminal past?
No, I'm not ashamed of it.
Why not?
Because I didn't know any better.
But now you do?
Yes, I do.
And you look back on it?
I look back, and that's who I was then. When I was a child, I talked, thought, and reasoned like a child. But now that I'm a man, I've put childish ways behind me. I was a child.
Would you legalise cannabis if you were in charge?
What do you think?
What if I said you could walk away with this games console, a TV, a set of roller skates, this cuddly toy, a top-of-the-line tumble dryer, and this bag of carrots?
Can I just have a better deal without all the stuff?
You'd think so, wouldn't you?
Simple plans, no silly packages. Smarty.
I was trying so many times, so many different companies, so many different roles.
And there's always that nagging question in your mind. Will I ever work again?
I just couldn't find a job, but then someone suggested Indeed.
I was at home when I got the job offer. I was so excited. I was like, ah, I actually got the job.
Indeed helped me get my career off the ground, you know. Not just the job, but what I want to do forever.
It's time. Time to look forward to getting away. To shouting and screaming and hanging on for dear life. To doing the things we've all missed doing with the ones who matter most. It's time to break free and just be. Mum, Dad, us again. Centre Parks. This is family.
Some climate experts say time is running out unless we seriously change our habits.
Fortune favors the frugal. IKEA, the wonderful everyday.
Hello, I'm Dave Gorman, and this is UK TV Play, the on-demand TV app. If you like the Yesterday channel, then this is where you can get Yesterday on demand. You can catch up and stream your favourite Yesterday shows like Bangers and Cash, The World at War, and Great British Railway Journeys. So if you want the Yesterday channel on demand, it's all in there, completely free on your TV, mobile, or online. For the Yesterday channel on demand, just search UK TV Play.
Were into drugs a bit when you were young?
No.
Cannabis?
Marijuana is not a drug.
What is it?
It's a herb.
It's a herb?
Yeah.
Have you tried that defence with the police, or?
I don't break the law.
Do you still partake of the herb?
No. I have too many responsibilities. So I am active. I'm always on duty.
Would you legalise cannabis if you were in charge?
What do you think? Tell me about the argument on the negative side.
The police will tell you a lot of the cannabis, the skunk end of it these days, is much stronger and therefore potentially much more harmful.
But if we're just talking about pure herb, what would you say then?
Well, you tell me. I'm interviewing you.
Well, really? I mean, you are the journalist.
No, really. It's called Piers Morgan's Life Stories.
Yes, but you are the journalist.
No, I understand. But it's not my job to provide the answer to my own questions.
But it may be more powerful for the viewers of your program.
Well, the viewers want to know what you think.
Let me tell you something, Piers. You know, you are an extraordinary man.
Thank you.
You know, that can sound like lip service. If you have a view, you know, I'm going to support it because you make sense.
I appreciate it, but we're not here to blow smoke up my arse, much as I'd like to.
No, I don't blow smoke, okay?
Well, you do blow smoke,
no,
if it's herb. Okay, listen, I really appreciate it.
I've embarrassed you. Okay?
No, you haven't. It's just I want to finish your life story. Chris, out of the ring, you've been knocked down on a number of occasions, but you've always come up again fighting.
By the late 80s, Chris was making progress in his boxing career. The fame and fortune were a long way off, and he was crashing with his brother and his girlfriend near Brighton.
Christopher sofa surfed with us for a good few months because he had come with nothing. He said, you haven't got a sister, have you? I could do with a good woman like you. And I introduced him to my sister, Karen.
Not long after they met, Karen found herself in hospital after a robbery in the jewellery shop where she worked.
Christopher was by her side for 2 days, bought her flowers, and she just thought, this man can actually sit by my bed for 2 days, I'm going to give him a chance. And she kept him because he swore blind one day he was going to be a world champion and he would look after her. We were like, is he really going to?
But in 1990, Chris got his big chance, a world title fight against champion Nigel Benn. The rivalry was intense.
You are mine, you belong to me. I am the man.
Why won't you face him tonight?
I'll face the man in the ring. I can face him. I'm speaking to you, asking me questions.
Anytime.
Nigel was the only boxer that I ever found very intimidating.
I don't hate the man. I just want his WBO title.
I personally do hate him.
There was an atmosphere of violence in the room.
It was electric at the NEC.
Most sports pundits expected Ben to win.
That was a strong edge.
It was such an intense fight.
He's done Ben by the look of it.
He was vicious. I've never been involved with such a violent fight.
Eubank took some big shots, split his tongue with an uppercut from Ben.
Against the odds, after 9 rounds, Chris won.
We just saw him go to his knees and it was just a moment not to be forgotten.
Chris had proved the doubters wrong and was world champion. But in his moment of glory, his girlfriend was the first thing on his mind.
He had always said to my sister, as soon as I make champion, I will ask you to marry me.
Karen, can we get married now?
Because he never let Mum go to any of the fights. She would always sit at home and watch. He knew that she would be watching.
Have you had a chance to reply yet? I did speak to him last night, but his tongue was badly cut, so I couldn't talk an awful lot to him, and I'm waiting for him to come home today. So haven't you said yes yet? I have said yes, obviously.
Within weeks, Chris and Karen were married. And the riches Chris had promised his new bride were on their way.
All of a sudden there's this money, there's premieres, 6-star hotels, pinch yourself stuff.
Chris and Karen had already had their first child, Chris Jr. 3 more children were to follow, Sebastian, Emily and Joseph. In the early 2000s, the family landed their own reality TV show, At Home with the Eubanks.
We loved it, especially because when the cameras are around, we got away with a lot more.
This is what Dad's been telling us not to do, but we seem to just keep on coming back and doing it anyway.
I would sit there and watch it, I'm like, oh my God. I am hideous.
This is not my bag.
Dad was always loving and playful, just doing weird things.
It's been a pleasure, thank you.
Chris was now retired from boxing. Reality TV wasn't as lucrative, and his millions were running out. But his spending habits hadn't changed.
The wool was pulled over my eyes. I was duped. He pretended he couldn't play.
Well, you didn't have to carry on until he got to 8 grand.
Where did all that money go, Dad?
Boots, £1,500. His job was £1,200 a pair.
But you see it going on things that you just wouldn't normally buy.
One of his faults is actually being too generous. If he has £5 to his name and someone else needs it, he's going to give you that £5.
When a £1.3 million tax bill came in, Chris couldn't afford to pay it and was made bankrupt.
To be that famous and then have to face bankruptcy and lose everything. I mean, he had so much.
Behind the scenes, the Eubanks' happy family life was starting to crumble. His relationship with Karen became strained after Chris started making headlines for the wrong reasons.
She'd phone me and say, oh, the press are out and about, don't answer the door.
There were disputed allegations of affairs, while Chris's eccentric activities got him in trouble with the police more than once.
The ex-world champion was stopped as he protested against the Iraq War by driving a large truck along Whitehall.
It was just constant stories about what he'd done next, and she was embarrassed by it.
Eventually, Karen had enough. In 2005, she filed for divorce.
He was like, I know you're not going to leave me. He didn't believe it.
I don't know if he cried when him and my mother split up, but I know it was tough. I know he didn't want that.
He would always be like, I'm going to get your mum back. And I'm like, you're not, but okay.
He knows he had a good woman, and he was gutted. He was absolutely gutted.
How did you feel when Karen left you?
Well, I didn't believe it. When she said she wanted a divorce, I said, you can't be serious. She said, yeah. I said, okay. But I didn't believe it. And I think it was about 1.5 years later we were divorced.
Were you a good husband?
I was a great husband.
I mean, various women went to the papers with stories of affairs with you. Were they true?
I always came home to my wife.
So they were true, but you went home?
You can, I'm not going to...
It's not for me to put words in your mouth, but...
I'm not going to talk of my past regrets.
I suppose the only relevant question is whether the other women were the reason why Karen, in the end, had enough. Do you think that was the case?
You'd have to ask her.
What do you think?
I don't know.
You must know.
I don't know.
You don't know why she divorced you?
No. As I said to you, I couldn't believe it. I didn't believe it when she said.
You went from being very rich, a multimillionaire, to being bankrupt. Have you been happier when you've had money or when you've had no money?
Well, let me tell you what happens when you don't have money. No one asks you for anything. When you have money, everyone has a £3,000 to £5,000 problem. Everyone. So...
Because people ask you for money.
It's a balance.
But you had this situation in your life. Your wife's left you. You're declared bankrupt. Your daughter found a diary where she said you'd written that you were sleeping in your truck. I mean...
Again, you know, the frame of mind I have, do you know what a privilege it is to sleep in the truck?
Right.
Some people don't have. A lot of people don't have a place to sleep.
Did that hurt your pride? And what was that like for you?
All of these periods, all of these phases were great because I learned. You don't learn when you stay still. This was my luck. Because it's given me a story.
Right.
Or it's given me a life.
Let's go back to the night that you became world champion, beating Nigel Benn. You spent 7 years preparing for that world title fight. Extraordinary dedication and sacrifice. I mean, talk me through what you had to put yourself through in that time. What does it take to become world champion?
Yeah, you get up and you run every morning and you train every day. And if you're going to be clever about it, train on Christmas Day and your birthdays, because that's when the other guys are taking a break. You have to get ahead of them intellectually. You have to do things that they won't do. If you can think, if you can use your brains, you can work out how to do anything.
We've got a picture of you, 1990, after you defeated Nigel Benn. When you look at that picture, what were you actually thinking in that moment, when you actually achieved the great dream of becoming world champion?
That my brothers would finally respect me and treat me like you treat each other.
And were they all watching?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah.
And what did they say to you afterwards?
You're still a tosspot.
She listened to all this and still married you?
I pulled it off.
Well done.
Time to get that smart shopper feeling with Asda and Sky Store movie nights in. Pick up 2 medium pizzas from the pizza counter, plus a soft drink and a Sky Store online movie voucher for just £5. Come and get a slice of the action. That's Asda price.
It's a game changer.
Why have so many people switched to Garnier Micellar Water?
And take the makeup right off your face. Look at all my makeup.
Cleansed, soothed, soft, clean.
My skin feels great. I don't know what I would do without it.
Make the switch to the UK's #1 micellar water. 9 out of 10 wouldn't go back. By Garnier, naturally.
For over 100 years, NFU Mutual have been providing quality insurance to our customers, their families and their businesses. So we're very proud to be the winner of the Which Award for the Insurance Brand of the Year 2020. At NFU Mutual, we reward our customers for their loyalty. It's one of the reasons 95% of our customers choose to renew with us year after year. For quality insurance from the Which Insurance Brand of the Year 2020. Call us now or search NFU Mutual.
Henry Dicer, paperboy, 1904, helped on his rounds by his best friend. 10 years later, he went to war, leaving behind his wife, Eliza. Soon, Henry was in the paper himself, commended for bravery. He never made it home to meet his daughter. I didn't know my great-granddad Henry, but now I do.
Bring your backstory to life with Ancestry.
As soon as this is over, I'm going straight on holiday. Get me to the beach. Bikini on, cocktail in hand, and covered head to toe in Factor 50. Listen, this body hasn't seen the sun since March. I'm not taking any risks.
You've got married again to a lady in Louisiana. Mm-hmm. You haven't really talked much about that.
No, she's not a public figure. She doesn't want to be a public figure.
But are you happy?
Oh, extremely happy.
Where do you live together?
Louisiana.
And do you think, is this for life, this one?
Absolutely, yes.
Did you meet in Louisiana?
No.
Where did you meet?
At the Dorchester.
Really?
Yes.
Did she know who you were?
No.
No idea?
No. I gave her a compliment, and my line went on for about 3 minutes.
How did it start?
I was giving credit to the power of women and the female of the species. I got her to go onto a phone and get up a poem written by Rudyard Kipling in 1911 called The Female of the Species. And I said, read that. And as she started to read, I said, when the Himalayan peasant meets the he-bear in his pride, he'll shout to scare the monster who will often turn aside. But the she-bear thus accosted rends the peasant tooth and nail, for the female of the species is more deadly than the male.
She listened to all this and still married you?
She didn't just listen to it. No, she read it. She read it as I was reciting.
This is so you're reciting the Kipling poem?
And she's reading it.
Yeah, and it worked. Somehow that you pulled this off.
I pulled it off.
Well done. A new inspiration has come into your life from your own family. For many people, one Chris Eubank is enough. Now the boxing world has two.
Age 40, his boxing days over, Chris was divorced, bankrupt, and going through a rough time.
What happened to Chris Eubank? Why don't I see you on TV anymore, they say?
In recent years, Chris Sr. has found an unlikely salvation. Unlikely because he'd always said he'd never wanted his children to go into boxing.
Christopher, just leave it alone. I don't want to fight. Everyone gets hurt. Everyone gets disfigured. Everybody gets used.
But during the filming of At Home with the Eubanks, Chris had second thoughts.
I try and try.
Okay, I'll let you try.
A few days later, I was in the gym.
Chris Jr.'s now become a world-class boxer in his own right. And guess who's been right there in his corner?
He's been at that level, he knows. And really, that experience, you can't buy that experience. It's good to have someone, especially if it's your father as well.
Probably wouldn't be where I am today without his guidance. I'm forever grateful for that.
As far as his children's boxing career is concerned, there was only one person that was going to be in control, and that was him.
And the father-son partnership certainly paid dividends in 2017, when Chris Jr. followed in his dad's footsteps to become world champion. But Chris had yet to learn one important lesson of fatherhood: when to let go.
I exist, I'm here, I'm real, I'm talking.
Often Chris Sr. was the star of these press conferences. Journalists deliberately almost provoked Chris Sr. because they knew he'd give him a great line.
I have some great stories because of these experiences.
And it is amazing to listen to.
I need to be buoyant, boisterous, and gay. Gay in the 70s terms and 70s ways of...
I know which way you meant that. Okay. 30 years of listening to these life lessons. You know, sometimes you got to give me a little break.
We have to let the youngsters have centre stage, and sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah, press conferences, now I do them on my own. I'm very happy with the path I'm on. I'm very happy with what I've done in my career. Walking along the street, people are saying, oh, I love your old man. Keep doing what you guys are doing, love the relationship.
He's obviously proud of what his boy has achieved, and it's given him a new lease of life.
Threw himself into the limelight, made a few mistakes on the way, but he's inspirational.
As a father, I learned so much, and I still learn from him. I wouldn't change him for the world.
You were very resistant that your kids should not follow you into boxing, and then you changed your mind. Why?
Because he was approaching 16, and you know, I thought, well, I've got to let him do it, otherwise he's going to hold it against me if I stop him, and that will last for many years. And so I had to give him my full backing.
Another famous British world heavyweight champion actually played a part in that decision.
Lennox Lewis.
Yeah.
Yes.
What happened?
I think he used the analogy of a car. Are you going to stop your boy from driving because he may have a crash? But it's not the right analogy, because boxing is it's super forensic, and it's not about fighting men. It's about integrity. It's about conduct. It's about code. It's about being real. It's about discipline.
If you could write your own epitaph, what would you say about yourself? How would you like to be remembered?
How would I like to be remembered?
Yeah.
It may be reading the pale blue dot. And the pale blue dot may sum up what we have to do as humans.
What do you mean, the pale blue dot?
It's a philosophy that was recited by Carl Sagan, the former scientist. And I asked you to actually...
I've got it here, yeah. We have a black
cardboard piece of paper with a dot on it. Yes. And, you know, that dot from the sun is how the Earth looks. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image of our tiny world. And to preserve, protect, and cherish this, the pale blue dot, the Earth, to protect our Earth, the only home we've ever known.
Chris Eubank, thank you very much indeed.